Arizona Smith was one of those projects that comes around once in a lifetime. It really was. After three kind of really dark stories, Contamination, Escapee, and Anonymity, and we all just felt it's really time for something light and fun and interesting. The way Arizona Smith started was after Anonymity was finished, and it was a dismal production, and I think everybody was equally disappointed in it at the time. I just wanted to make something adventurous. I told Brad and Tom and Kyle, Roger, I just wanted to make something with an adventure, a lot of outdoor stuff, daytime stuff out in the woods or whatever, out in the desert. And that's all I really said. So we took a little vacation. I think it was myself, Pete, Brad, Kyle, Tom, Roger, and Todd. We all went with Roger in his big Suburban. Trip to California. We went to San Diego for a night or two in LA and did a whole bunch of fun stuff. This is the spring of '89. On the way to California with everybody, I told Brad about my desire to make some sort of adventure, and he sat in the back seat and penned out this little script, and he gave it to me. A little 10-page thing called Arizona Smith. I thought, well, that's interesting. What is it, like an Indiana Jones parody or something? And he's like, yeah, just read it. So I read it, and it's a very simple story. Had the beginning with a quick little thing with the natives chasing them, and gets into a truck, is how it was originally, gets into a truck and leaves. And then he meets up with Sloan Fresh. They find this treasure, and then he beats up Scab or whatever, and it was a quick little nothing thing. So I looked at it and I thought, this really has a lot of potential to be something really cool. So I told Brad, I said, why don't you just expand it a little bit, make it a little more, flush it out a little bit more, make it more intense. And he turned in his second draft, and I don't remember who came up with the term "the Lost Ore House." It might have been me, because his title was just Arizona Smith, and I'm like, well, we have to have it say "and the something." So as soon as he had gold, actually the original plan was to have the treasure chest out in the backyard of a house. I said, stick the treasure chest somewhere in the house hidden, and that way we can have an ore house. Gold. A gold ore house. Which of course is a silly play on words. But that's how it started. So by the time we were back from California back to Tucson, we had a couple drafts written in the car of Arizona Smith and the Lost Ore House. And I immediately got really excited about the idea of doing it, and doing an adventure, and doing something that wasn't so dark and have such a downer of an ending, which all the other movies had, and a lot of death and mayhem.
How or why did I become involved in Arizona Smith? Well, Clark convinced me to be Arizona Smith. He bugged me and pestered me and tormented me and kept telling me that I would be the one, and I kept saying no, no, no. I don't want to be the star. I don't want to be the one that's the center of attention. I don't want to do it, Clark. And he just kept bugging me and pestering me, and finally I said okay, and basically I did it for him.
I feel really lucky that I was able to get almost the entire cast of Anonymity back together barely 3 months later. 3 months after we wrapped with Anonymity, and I was quickly putting together this new movie. I remember it was one of the most nervous times of my life when we started filming Arizona Smith, because I had come off of this really bad experience, Anonymity, which is just a poorly made movie, really badly made movie. When there was nothing fun, there was absolutely nothing fun about Anonymity. It was one big chore and problem after another.
Anonymity was, the storyline was funky. The editing in it was very rough, and the acting was even poorer. But it wasn't that I didn't want to do another film after Anonymity. I just didn't want to put as much time into it. And Clark had several more of these classes lined up, and I didn't want to be the one that was always doing these. And I just as much like to be doing the editing and the filming and everything else. I didn't feel like I needed to act in these to be part of it. And those are the things that I would much rather do. I loved watching Clark edit in the editing studio, and seeing how all of that was done, that if I had my choice, that's what I would have rather have done. And just the fact that Anonymity wasn't the best film did not make me want to. It was not a deciding factor on me wanting or not wanting to be in Arizona Smith.
And I think part of me just said, you know, we have to quickly make something to kind of make up for Anonymity. We have to do something fun and light and something funny. And that's one reason Arizona Smith came together. But I feel really fortunate that Beth and Todd and Tom, Kay and Lee and Brad and Kyle and Roger, and that they all came back to do this despite what a miserable experience Anonymity was. I think perhaps they may have felt the same way as I did. They just wanted to make something. We can't end it like this. I mean, that was really towards the end of Tom's time at U of A, and I was about to graduate a couple of years later as well. And we wanted to make something big, something really good to kind of keep in our memory. By no means should Anonymity be our final project together.
You know, Arizona Smith is very much like Indiana Jones, but we tried to make it a little cornier. He was a person that always wore the same clothes, always wore the same garb, was, you know, a treasure hunter. He was shy, but he liked to be in the middle of it. He liked to be there hunting for treasure. One of the first things that I have to comment on is my wardrobe. Clark made this wardrobe. We were in college, we didn't have a lot, and we scrounged together the parts and pieces to make up this uniform for Arizona Smith.
There's an amazing amount of props used for the film. The hat, of course, is the one I bought. It was about a $90 hat, $80 hat.
The hat, this was Clark's hat. It did not fit me at all. And I actually had to stick sticks in it to make it fit. In fact, there are several scenes, if you watch, you can see a stick sticking out, or a stick falls out, or in fact it even runs so crazy because the hat doesn't fit. And we're filming these on usually windy days, and part of the time the hat wants to blow off all the time. I think you may see that in the bloopers, but the hat didn't fit. And the shirt was Clark's, the pants were Clark's, the belt, I had to wear a canteen all the time, I had to wear a knife all the time, and you know, basically once we started with that wardrobe, that's what we had to stay with. And basically all that stuff was Clark's, except for the white socks. The white socks were mine, and that's because I didn't have any other socks at the time. And again, once I started wearing those color socks, I had to keep the continuity throughout the entire movie.
The treasure chest was my dad and Carolyn's. They let me borrow it. The skeleton was Kyle. The gun, of course, was Courtney's, that gun was in all the movies, starting with Contamination. So really awesome to have all these props and costumes and spears. And the big electric ball was Todd's. The strobe lights were Todd's. So the night before we started shooting, which was the first scene was at Brad's house, when Arizona Smith is reading the magazine and watching Raiders on TV. The night before that, we gathered over at Tom and Kyle and Roger's house and watched Temple of Doom together. We watched the whole movie. We kind of wanted to get into the whole mood and feel of it, and I wanted Tom to sort of get some of Harrison Ford's vibes going, you know, a little bit, have some subtle acting like that without being too over the top.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, Arizona Smith was the best movie that Clark wrote and directed and produced. It was the best. It was a takeoff on Indiana Jones, and it, I didn't have a big part in it, but I think I was a librarian that took a book to somebody.
The opening scene with the natives was one of those times where a simple little thing turned into this wonderful, awesome dramatic scene. In Brad's script, he had Arizona Smith just running to a truck and escaping a couple of natives, but after we actually shot that scene close to the end of shooting, so by the time we got to that and things were going so well, Brad made all these costumes. He made the spears and the wigs and everything, and the scene just turned into this big awesome scene, one of the biggest scenes, most memorable scenes I think I've ever done.
You know what's neat, Clark? You know what looks really good? Is the dust that you guys create. They look real sharp.
And Clark was in it. It was one of the funniest things I ever saw in my life. He was one of the natives carrying a spear. All the other natives were carrying a spear, and Clark was playing one of them, and I just will never forget it. It was hilarious to me.
You guys gotta look a lot meaner.
Now we're laughing!
You know, look at me. Lose your spear?
What? Well, it's
Kay was smiling already.
I'm not. I'm squinting.
Get these clothes. Clark's waving. He's up. Oh, that's green. He's pulling it off, and there's that logo on the back of the T-shirt.
The scene with the natives was hot. It was a July day in the summer of '89, and we're wearing these costumes. We're doing a lot of running, and we were just, you know, so hot. And Todd, you can see it in Todd's eyes when he was done. He was exhausted. He was like heat sick or something. It was a killer. And then, of course, my Uncle Mike got a hold of this guy with the airplane, and we went out to the landing field and did the scene. It's pretty awesome stuff.
My favorite scene shooting was the airplane scene, the Indian scene in the outdoors. You know, we did some pretty good outside shots.
Arizona Smith. It was an epic film. I remember that. It was probably your crowning achievement, and a lot. I remember so much effort and work went into it. I know Andy put a lot into it, but you came to us and asked if we could get an airplane and to do this scene, and my wife at the time, Katie, who we might not yet even been married, I'm not even sure, but she had a friend who was a veterinarian named Mike Robinson, who had his own airplane, and she talked him into it. He agreed to it. He did all the actual flying of the airplane. It's his airplane. We landed out in an old dirt strip called Bullhead or something, but it was out near the town of Catalina. It was a dirt strip, and the peeing on the ground scene was my idea. For some reason I thought that would be really funny. When I initially pitched that to Clark, he didn't like it. But the more we talked about it, the more discussion we had on it, he finally agreed to it. Of course, it really wasn't peeing on the ground. It was all implied.
I can get a can of Coke and be pouring it on the ground. And be looking more like surprised, like, oh my God, look at these natives coming. Okay? I don't know if I can really get into the surprise aspect. You ready? Yeah. Go. Great. That was great. I love it.
Really made the scene for me. I thought it was going to be funny, but then I later saw it. I was always embarrassed about it. I just thought I looked like an idiot.
No keys!
It's a fake.
Ready for this? No line, no line.
Good. I like that.
Ready?
Okay, now what do I do?
Well, needless to say, this is certainly Andy's most memorable role. It wasn't his biggest role was actually probably in Specimen, but as far as dialogue goes and screen time, but this is the role that sealed him as the funniest villain in our history of filmmaking together, and as soon as I read the script and Brad had this evil priest, I said, well, that certainly is going to be Andy, and he can dress up and be really great.
I'm rolling. Go ahead. Okay. Okay. Do your fondling. Okay, action.
He's still fondling. I'm itchy.
Okay, wait.
Okay. Action.
Tonight, Dr. Smith, you must die.
Right.
I had goosebumps. Very nice. Good. Scary.
You're gonna go like this.
And then, of course, my mom and Andy's house, which was the Orr house, was really great. All of Andy's clutter and antiques and paraphernalia on the walls, I thought it would be kind of a good mansion. But I remember asking Andy if I could put up spider webs and different stuff to make it look like it was, you know, like a haunted house kind of thing, like no one's been living in it for 100 years or whatever. He wouldn't let me go that far. But it was a great location, a great place to film the movie.
Okay, good.
Oh my god.
Andy is one of the guardians, and he's coming down the stairs, and the lighting and the fan and the music in that scene are my favorite scenes in the end.
Oh my god.
Really cool.
We had Kay and Roger and Todd and Kyle all helping with the evil priest scene. We had blow dryers going and strobe lights, and you know, that's one of the awesome, most coolest scenes I think I've ever done, with the music from Temple of Doom going crazy, and Andy, his big line.
You may have defeated my henchman.
Just like Roscoe again.
That's funny.
One more time. What's the next line?
No one can stand before my
No
dread
one
might.
can stand before my dread might.
And it was really hard to film these inside someone's house. A lot of times there wasn't enough room, or there were things in the way, or you know, whatever it might be. So filming in the house was hard. Filming outside was great.
Push me like that, and then I'll grab you.
Like that?
And then we have to work our way back. Like, throw me.
My favorite scene is in the mansion, and it's a set of scenes. You know, it starts with Arizona Smith and Sloan pulling up outside, and they walk around back, and there's a bunch of cats, and they go inside after defeating one of the first guardians. And
Break it?
Uh-oh. I'm looking at Tom, and then, or no.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking around. And you know what to do, don't you?
Sure.
Okay. Ready? Action.
Wait. Okay.
Okay.
Miss K is laughing at me.
Oh. Okay, that's good. No, I didn't laugh doing it though. Go. Good. That's it for your breathing scene. Okay, action. How much breathing? A lot. All over again, okay? Ready? Yep. Go. Good. Well, you should have saw what he was doing before the.
No, I think you need to do it longer.
I already did it
A full 5 minutes now.
Huh? It goes on,
It goes
when
on
they go off.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the other way around.
When my magic goes to... Where am I, right here?
Right there.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
One more time. No, it's that in person.
Okay, action. Okay. Look good.
Is that the end?
Brad deserves all the credit for writing the movie, but I added a lot of little stuff. Some of the slapstick and I guess the silly stuff, you might call it, is kind of my stuff. like when Arizona Smith looks right into the camera lens, is my idea, and some of the direct lines from Raiders is my idea.
The trouble with you is all the noise. Just stand against the wall and don't move.
But overall, the structure of the movie was his, and it was really great to take his dialogue and his story and make it happen.
I would say that the scene that I dislike the most is the treasure in the garage. You know, this was supposed to be a little bit of a mini climax where we had found the treasure, and it wasn't. I think we could have done a little bit better around that. I have several scenes that I had bloopers in and I didn't say things right that I wish I could take back, like astronomical sightings or betraying me.
Doesn't explain why you're trailing me.
I wish I could have those back, but they're funny to watch now, and they're part of the movie. Nate, this is hush hush. A lot of people could be out there.
Like who?
I don't know. Anyone's. This could be the find of the decade.
So what are you gonna do?
Where to go tomorrow?
The truck fight. Just absolutely loved the truck fight. It was so much fun because we rehearsed it on a bed, because a queen-size bed was roughly the same size as Roger's truck. We rehearsed it a couple times, and man, I wished I'd recorded that on tape. That would have been funny to see. Then we went out and shot it without the truck moving at all, and did a couple different angles, and I just had the sky in the background. We had people rocking the truck so it looked like it was moving, and I think it all really cut together well.
Okay, go ahead.
Tom and Todd really gave their all. I mean, it was so hot. It probably was 115 degrees. We're out there, you know, especially on the scene when we're not moving. That truck, the metal of the truck bed was hot. It was burning their hands. Tom's hat kept falling off, and I can actually see a couple of in the raw footage. I can see Tom getting frustrated with how long it was taking.
Can we put the hat somewhere when he gets in the truck?
And it was so hot. They're out there in the stark sunlight. There's no shade. It's hotter than hell. And of course, moving when the truck was moving wasn't a whole lot better. It was a very hot July day.
Oh my God! Oh, you're loving it.
And the last thing we did was out shooting, actually really moving for the final thing. And Roger was actually driving for that. Beth wasn't even actually there for any of the truck fight driving. We saved the truck fight until nearly the end of shooting because I really didn't even want to present such a harebrained idea to everybody until I knew that the film was really going well, until I knew it was working, until I knew we had the right tone. And I mean, you'd be surprised that it's not easy to capture the kind of tone Arizona Smith has. And it's a tone I don't think I've ever used in any other movie in my life. I'm always afraid that if I really tried to be funny, I really wouldn't be. But this movie is funny without really even trying it seems. But anyway, so once we had a lot of stuff done and a lot of action stuff was looking great, and was probably doing some offline editing at the time to see how things were looking, I then just said, I said, we have to do this truck fight. We have to do a really awesome fight. We have the beginning with the airplane and the natives, and we have to have an equally awesome ending scene. A big fight, just like the one in Raiders, when he goes underneath the truck and all that. So finally, I don't remember if Tom was excited or not. He might not have been really too enthused about doing it because it was 115 degrees in the middle of August, and we had to memorize and coordinate this fight. I mean, Todd's using a real knife, and they had to be really careful. So and Tom almost fell out of the truck one time.
Hold on. Stop. What happened?
He fell down and hit his back.
I almost fell out.
All right. Action.
Say all right till we're right back here. That's what happened last time. You're like, all right, it's done with the throw.
It's pretty intense stuff. Someone could have got hurt, but it was so much fun, and it was a real thrill to put together such an ambitious scene with one little camcorder. big truck fight with rapid cutting, and I mean, it looks like there's probably more cameras than there were. It was just one camera the entire movie.
That's good. Are you alright?
I hope so, because that really hurt me bad.
I didn't mean for you to hurt yourself.
I tripped.
You did? Okay.
Looks good.
That was very good. I really thought you were going to start laughing.
Well, we can knock our heads and smile
I remember the dance scene being, I just didn't know if it was going to work at the time. I had no idea what Roger was filming and how it was looking through the camera. He did all the camera work for that, and I didn't really have a good time doing that. I felt really silly, and we rehearsed it to death. We did it about 10 different times, and it was really Andy's little pet idea, and he really wanted to do it. He wanted to do something really, flashy, and the whole thing is really kind of harkens back to the beginning of Temple of Doom, and he wanted to really get that flair.
Just because it's fun, just us three.
What the what?
You'll be dancing down here
Oh, I do?
after at the end. For Beth to come up in the middle. Then what do you do? Then just move back and forth like that, and they come in. Okay, start.
Oh, you didn't start, Clark. We're not going to be going. You can have some part over there.
Yeah, you gotta start the
You
right
gotta
way.
start going up and down.
It certainly could have used a lot more editing instead of just a static shot, but at the time we kept everyone really late that night. I think it was a Sunday night. We all had to go to work the next day, if I remember correctly. But you can see the look on my face personally. I just for some reason I was on edge that night, and I just didn't really have a good time. I don't know why. And they tried to get me to do this kick dance maneuver, and I was just done. I remember being mentally shot that night. And luckily Andy took charge, and he kind of directed the entire thing and choreographed it and told everyone what to do, and they did it. And it's one of the funniest things I think we've ever done. And it's certainly the most memorable thing he's ever done. And I think for generations in my family to come, they'll be laughing their heads off on Grandpa Felix.
Okay, you got that? Like that.
Anything goes.
Beautiful.
I think to this day, Arizona Smith is, at least in my family and friends, certainly is a favorite, if not the favorite thing I've ever done. Even the people that have seen my feature still think Arizona Smith is the best thing we ever did.
What's Arizona Smith and the Lost Whorehouse about? One word: fun. It was all fun. Fun with friends. Fun teasing Clark. Fun teasing each other. Laughing at each other.
And certainly it was the funnest, the best time, the time when everything came together so beautifully without any problems whatsoever. And it was just a wonderful summer. And even, it was kind of weird when it was over, it was almost depressing, because it was like, I kept thinking, how in the world am I going to top this?
You know, we all had a lot of fun making Arizona Smith. And now, our families and our kids and our grandkids can enjoy this movie and this fun. That's what Arizona Smith was about to me.